Hello. On the final weekend of May, the biggest gaming convention in the UK took place in Birmingham. UK Games Expo 2026 was the largest that the convention has ever been, celebrating its 20th anniversary with over 70,000 attendees and an enormous number of exhibitors, games to play, and things to do. And I went there with a bingo card full of ideas and objectives, things I wanted to achieve whilst I was there. But I was not prepared for just how significant the miniature wargaming presence would be at this year's convention. There was an absolutely huge number of amazing looking miniatures games, and I got to sample some of them, check some of them out, and learn about an awful lot. So today I'm going to talk you through all of the coolest stuff that I did at UK Games Expo, and we're going to explore if I was able to complete my bingo card for this year, or if I left some things undone. I'm Jordan, this is Jordan Sorcery, and this is my post-show review for UK Games Expo 2026. Okay, so I'm going to start by saying there was an absolute plethora of things to do, just an enormous number of amazing games to see and to play and to talk about. So I will in no way be able to comprehensively cover everything in this short video, because there just really was too much stuff. I had an absolutely fantastic time. I attended from Thursday afternoon, which was the preview show, right the way to the end of the show on Sunday. That was 3 full days and a little bit extra of just talking to people and playing games and checking stuff out. It was absolutely amazing. An incredible experience. I am so grateful to have been able to attend, and I could not have enjoyed it more. Seeing so many amazing people, chatting to so many people, both industry legends and fans of the channel, and just other people who love gaming as much as I do, it was a real joy. So you may know that I went to this year's convention with a bingo card in hand. It was 25 squares of different objectives for me to complete, and I kept them pretty open. I wanted these things to be quite interpretable, so anybody could use this bingo card and they could find different ways to tick off all of the different boxes, whether they were going for a row or a column, or they wanted to do the entire thing like me, which was quite an undertaking. So this is just a huge number of things to achieve, as well as just getting around the convention and seeing everything that was there. But I did my best to complete it, and I'm going to talk about some of the coolest things that I was able to do and boxes I was able to tick over the course of this video. Probably one of the coolest places to start is the box about taking a photo with a legend. Now, I had gone into this with a pretty open mind. Like I say, there are different ways to complete pretty much all of the boxes on here, and I had thought that, well, we know there are going to be some legendary figures from gaming history present at the convention. I actually also thought it might be possible to complete this by taking a photo alongside somebody in cosplay as a legendary character, or perhaps posing with a legendary game or something like that was also present at the convention. And as it happens, I was able to take some photos with Galmaraz, the legendary Warhammer from Warhammer, and I think that they look pretty cool. But these were not my box-winning photos. No, I got something even better, because at the Trench Crusade stall, there were some mighty legends indeed. Trench Crusade has grown massively over the last couple of years, and one of the things that I really like about it is how it's bringing together amazing modern design, ideas, and production methods with classic talent from Games Workshop and Warhammer history. Jervis Johnson and Andy Chambers have most recently joined the team, and I had a chat to them about their work both before Trench Crusade and on it. I'd actually love to do some Trench Crusade specific videos, so let me know if you're interested in seeing that kind of thing. And when they weren't looking, I took a chance to take a bit of a photo with both legends at the same time, and I think it came out pretty well. The presence of the impressive Trench Crusade booth was actually great evidence of just how much UK Games Expo has continued to grow and embrace miniatures wargaming. There has always been this sense that UKGE has leaned a little bit more towards board gaming and role-playing gaming, and I think that's broadly speaking true. And part of that is because it's a very family-friendly and accessible event. It welcomes all gamers from every stripe. And sometimes the miniature wargaming space has been more localized around other specific miniature gaming conventions. But over the years, it has only grown and grown and grown in UK Games Expo. And this year, it really felt like there was an explosion of miniatures coverage. Not just were there loads of indie stalls selling amazing miniatures and 3D printed models and resin models and all sorts of stuff, but there were also loads of amazing new skirmish games actually premiering at UK Games Expo. So there were games like Lords and Legends from Duncan Rhodes and the team at Death Reaper Miniatures, the Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy's miniature gaming arm. They have created a brand new cinematic skirmish game that is very, very fun to play. It's really classic feeling. It has that sort of 80s action movie, fantasy movie vibe. The good guys are really good guys, the bad guys are really bad guys, and the miniatures are amazing. And I got to play a game of that and had terrific fun. It was really fast and loose and easy to play, but I think there's a lot of variability and flexibility within it that made it seem like it would be absolutely fantastic. Characters in the game are designed to feel really strong and powerful. There's almost a kind of heroic role-playing game aspect to them where they can put out a huge amount of damage, but they can take a load of damage as well. And I really like that the villains look just properly villainous. They really reminded me of like the bad guys in Willow or Conan and that kind of thing. And the heroes are proper noble guys. There is a real sense of this sort of classic fantasy genre stuff. And it just played like a really fun exploration of that. I'm very excited to play some more of this and to see where they take it next. There was a brand new game called Wildwood that looks really interesting. It's using larger scale display models, and they are really interestingly painted, and just there's a real vibrancy to them. It's played on a board that is a gridded board, so it has a simpler movement mechanic, and it's got dials and all this sort of stuff. I didn't get to demo Wildwood, but I did admire it. The miniatures look ace. It's very striking, and the art design for the boxes and for the cards that are used in the game mechanics, they looked absolutely amazing. I also got the chance to chat through a game called Brass Oasis, an independent miniatures agnostic game that I was given a copy of the rules to, and I'm looking forward to checking out in more detail. Plus, there were skirmish game legends like GCT Studios with Bushido, who gave me a copy of their 2-player starter set, which I'm very much excited about playing. And of course, one of my favourite games, Moonstone, were there with just amazing demo tables. Absolutely awesome. I got to play a game of that, which is how I ticked off play a miniatures game, because I just love Moonstone. Any excuse to play, I will take. And those boards were absolutely fantastic. The card-based mechanics for Moonstone remain just really fast and fluid. It's a great game to play. And as the game has entered its 10th anniversary year, I'm hoping to return to it and do a bit of a retrospective on how things have developed, how the game has grown, how the story has evolved, and what the future of Moonstone looks like. I really like playing this game. I think it's terrific. I think the models are really characterful, and it's just a whimsical fantasy world that is brilliant fun to spend time in. And then the awesome Dave Walker from MS Paints was there with his brand new game, Petrichor Blood Runs Cold, that looks absolutely awesome. A really, really fun and good-looking game. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Petrichor absolutely flew off the shelves. Pretty much all of the copies had gone by the time I got there, but luckily I was able to pick up a copy of the core rules, and Hector even agreed to sign it for me. And then I also had a bit of a chat with Dave Walker about the conception of the game and how it plays. Now, apologies for the audio here. It's quite loud in the background because the halls at the UK Games Expo are just very, very loud indeed. But I thought it was worth sharing some of Dave's words about the game and how excited and passionate he is about it.
It's a 4-character-a-side skirmish game, which is nice and concise, it's nice and tight. The whole game is built around miniature agnosticism, like our universe explains it, because I wanted to encourage it, but I was bothered that I hadn't explained why.
Right.
I was encouraging it in universe.
Sure.
So I've kind of done this thing where I've consistently wanted to anchor something to something else, to justify it.
Sure.
So I come from a film and audio background. I have to do motifs for everything. I have to do themes for everything. Everything has to set up everything else. I need everything to connect, and that's why it's taken forever to make.
Right.
So our universe is basically a frozen wasteland with like a feudal megacity where the last humans live. There's still tens of thousands of them.
Yeah.
But outside the city is just completely frozen wasteland with glaciers and ice and snowdrifts that move. And when they move, things from ancient history are unveiled. So ancient cathedrals, temple complexes, and the people that have died there in the past are being slowly, mysteriously reanimated from the dead.
Sure.
By something called petrichor.
There were, of course, loads more games to see besides these. I got the chance to scope out some of the amazing Dystopian Wars tables and Armoured Clash. I absolutely love what War Cradle are doing in these spaces. These games look fantastic and they play really, really well. There were plenty of miniature adjacent companies there as well, like Bad Squiddo, who have got an amazing range of miniatures, focusing in on women from history and the famous Turkey Man. Battle Systems had some of their really cool 3D card terrain. The Bushido demo table looked really beautiful. And there were loads of miniatures that looked very impressive for Archon Studios' StarCraft miniatures game. I should mention Godcone Miniatures, who gave me some amazing sort of kind of like Ink 28 or sort of Necropolis or some like very independent Blanchitsu style cultists with like pyramid heads, which I think are very, very cool. And then I was also gifted by a very generous patron of mine, a Snotling who is sat on the toilet. So that was very fun. This actually is how I'm going to tick off the box for making a friend. This inconvenienced Snotling and I have had many long conversations since I received him at the weekend. Here is something that is very, very cool. Ontos Games, the makers of the Rocknauts Space Dwarf miniatures, which is a range of really cool retro-styled squat-esque models, sort of Viking space dwarfs. Really, really cool set of models. They have secured the rights to produce a series of Bob Ollie squat-esque miniatures. So these were post-Games Workshop miniatures sculpted by Bob Ollie that are essentially squats in exo armor, the kind of egg-style exo armor. They're called the Iron Founding. They are really, really cool. There's, I think, 4 of these available in metal. I just picked up one because I think he looks absolutely awesome. But yeah, really, really impressive. Sort of that amazing. Ontos does this really cool thing where they sort of walk the line of modern and retro at the same time. And this absolutely falls into that category as well. I love it. Those were not the only miniature producing stalls. There were loads of exhibitors present that were making miniatures, making miniature games, loads and loads of awesome stuff. I've just not got time to talk about them all. Martha is now come to get involved because she wants to see all of the loot that I picked up. One thing it would be remiss of me not to mention was the return of Warhammer and Games Workshop to UKGE. For the last couple of years, they haven't been present, which has been a real shame for me. I just love seeing them. I love seeing what they've got and just pouring over all of the coolest stuff. But this year, they were back. Not only did they hold the Warhammer Open tournaments, which I did get to check out, and they looked absolutely awesome, just really, really fun. They also had a great big Warhammer stall and a shop selling loads of stuff. And they had a paint and take section. So I could actually go and paint a miniature and then take it away with me. And I did exactly that. And I have secured for myself a little Space Marine. Martha really wants it. A little Ultramarine that I've painted. Not especially well. It was just a quick job, but I'm very pleased to have been back at the painting table, putting some paint, adding some colour, which was on my bingo card. So I've ticked that off. And for a Space Marine as well, really, really fun. I had a great time. It was just a neat thing to do. Plus, I'm going to be doing this summer a big project to create a Space Marine army. I'm going to be collecting it. I'm going to be painting it so that I can play it in 11th edition. But I also want to be able to play it in 2nd edition. So I'm going to be collecting a retro Marine army, and I'm going to be documenting it all here on the channel, as well as making history videos about every single squad and unit and miniature that I buy for that army. So look out on the channel for that project coming very soon. As a self-confessed Warhammer nut, you're probably not going to be surprised that Warhammer was also a feature for me in a lot of other ways at UKGE as well. There were a couple of stalls selling retro games, and I really had to resist getting too involved because they were not cheap, but they were very cool to just see some classic gems on the actual stalls and to think for a moment about that dream life of what if I were to buy that? I didn't in the end, but I did get a couple of bargains from the actual bring and buy, which is one of my favorite things at UK Games Expo, because hundreds of, maybe even thousands of people check in their unwanted, secondhand, pre-loved games, and then they are for sale throughout the course of the event. And of course, with there being so much stuff and so many people coming from so far, there's often a chance to get hold of some really classic things at amazing prices. And I ticked off my box on my bingo card for pick up a bargain because I got Warrior Knights, which is a classic original 80s Games Workshop board game. You can't see it right now because Martha is in the way, but trust me, it is there. So I was really excited about that. And I also added to an existing project and ticked off that bingo card item as well, because I picked up another copy of Talisman. Let's get it the right round. Talisman. 3rd edition. This is the Jervis Johnson edition of Talisman, which I love. This is my edition of Talisman. This is the one that means the most to me. But the reason I got that is because I actually already have Talisman, but I don't have all of the miniatures for it. So I've got all of the expansions. I do have the Dragon's Tower and the Dragon, which is the rarest one, which I'm so grateful to have. Might do a video about that at some point, but I don't have all of the actual player pieces. So lots of different plastic characters were included in the base box and the expansions. I've got a selection of them, but not all of them. And I was hoping that this edition would allow me to complete that. Unfortunately, I'm still missing a plastic goblin fanatic, but I've pretty much, apart from I think some of the wizards in the later expansion, I've pretty much got all of the base game models and most of the expansion models now. So I've added to that project and I'm feeling pretty good about it. Of course, I had to play some games at Games Expo as well. If I was going to tick off 5 separate player game boxes, there was play a board game, play a miniatures game, play a role-playing game, play a card game, and just play a game. Now, I was able to do that. I played a game called Flee the Horde, which was absolutely fantastic. As you progress along the roads, you're using your hand of cards to lay down more roads, and then when you're discarding cards, they are actually turned into the horde of zombies that are chasing you. It is absolutely fantastic. It's very quick, it's very fast, it's very brutal and hard to win, but I had a terrific time with that. So that was awesome. That was play a game done. But I wasn't done with Warhammer just yet, because I had to play a couple of other types of games. So to play a card game, I dug out a couple of classic Warcry CCG sets that I have, which is the original Warhammer Fantasy collectible card game released in 2003 by Sabertooth Games. I have these, but I've never actually played this. But I was able to harangue my mate Pleasant Kenobi, who is an absolutely brilliant Magic the Gathering content creator and 40k content creator, and he knows a lot more about card games than I do, and we sat down to have a game of Warcry and to fathom out how it all worked. After we'd spent a bit of time working our way through the rules, which admittedly I probably should have done before the expo, me and Vince were able to play just a short game using the starter sets for Warcry, and it was actually really quite good fun. It really reminds me of Legend of the Five Rings, the card game, which I like quite a lot. It has 2 separate decks, one for your army and your equipment, and the other for the various tactics and instants and spells that you might be able to cast during the actual battles. And really, the game simulates building up an army in a front rank and in reserves, and then just throwing those at each other. It's quite good fun once you get the hang of it. And once that was done, I met up with James Hewitt, the designer of Dystopian Wars and Warhammer Quest Silver Tower and Gore Chosen and loads of other awesome games, because he is absolutely mad about Warhammer Warriors, a series of gamebook duels that came out from Black Library in the late 90s. I've got a couple of these. He has got every single one. And we fought our first duel together at Games Expo. The game is kind of complicated and took us a little bit of time to sort of get our heads around it, but it's actually not really that complicated. It's just that there's loads of different matrices and numbers. You each have a game book. You give it to your opponent. It represents your actions during a duel, and then you decide what you want to do based on your character sheet. So you might swing low or guard high. You shout out a number, and your opponent flicks to that page in the book to find out what's happened to them. Once you actually start to understand it and get the rhythm of it, it is terrific fun, and James and I had a real blast playing it. I'm so glad that I finally got to do so. It was terrific. So between this and Warcry, I ticked off 2 different boxes on my bingo card. There were a whole host of other boxes on my bingo card that needed to be completed. So let's go through some of them quite quickly now, and I will tell you a couple of my favourites. On the Saturday night, I got to see a spectacle when I went to see Quinns of the Quinn's Quest YouTube channel, one of my favourites, as he put on a weird history of TTRPGs quiz show, which was hilarious and a great night out. I decided to get some space by going and sitting alone in the middle of the actual open play area. I think it may have been the Lorcana tournament space, in fact, before anybody else was there. So I was able to just be alone with my thoughts, and one of the thoughts was that my camera just is not good enough to take shots like this one. It was on the way to UK Games Expo that I actually did some more reading of my latest Ian Watson book, Chaos Child, but I know that not everybody will accept that as being part of UK Games Expo, so fortunately I also read the first couple of chapters of Petrichor to make sure that I knew what I was talking about when I interviewed Dave later on. At the Geek & Sons stall, where they make amazing gaming tables that I absolutely coveted throughout the show, they had a giant dice tower and a giant dice, and I was able to roll it, and I was successful in winning myself a coaster and a sweet treat, so that was good fun too. A very cool addition to celebrate the 20th anniversary of UKGE was the inclusion of a museum area that actually went through the history of the convention. I thought it was fantastic, and they had the giant dragon mascot there, so I got to take a photo and basically meet a dragon. And in the bar at the Hilton Hotel, where there were loads of different gaming halls and RPGs and open gaming spaces going on, there was understandably an area reserved for non-gaming patrons. But when it was quiet, I snuck in and I did play myself another little game of Flee the Horde where I was not supposed to. So this was me breaking the rules. When it came to completing the box for Find a Path, I realised that I'd actually been able to complete that on the very first day, the very first minutes of arriving at UK Games Expo. When we first got there, we asked where to go to get our tickets, and I guess because we had our luggage with us, we were not sent to the regular ticket queue, we were sent to the actual exhibitor queue. And they told us that we would need high-vis jackets in order to go in and get our passes. So we had to go and claim some high-vis jackets and then go in. Except by the time we were in and across the halls and waiting in a huge queue, it became apparent that actually this was not where you would get your press passes or your regular tickets. This was where exhibitors were supposed to go in order to get whatever it is they needed from the actual convention. So we were stood there in the midst of the entire thing being put together before it was open to the public, and it did feel like we'd broken a few rules, but actually we'd been told to be there, so it kind of feels like, you know what, we followed a path, we found a path, and we went exactly where we were supposed to. Of course, it would take several more hours for us to discover where we were actually going to get our press passes, but by then we'd had a chance to cool down, had a chance to chill out, and it wasn't so stressful anymore. But I tell you, in those first moments, it was very, very confusing. I've not really talked all that much about the show itself. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of videos that go into great detail about all of the stuff that you could see and just how awesome everything was. And it really was awesome. I just found that talking about the actual bingo card and my experiences through that is probably the most interesting way for me to frame this stuff. But I do want to stress that I had a fantastic time at UK Games Expo. There really was more than it was possible to achieve in those 3 days. There was games I wanted to see, stalls I wanted to go to. There were people and places that I had spoken to and promised to meet and then just was not able to because I was diverted or because other things happened or things got in my way. There's just so much. There are so many amazing people and there are so many amazing conversations to be had that you just can't achieve everything. And I found that out to be true when it comes to the bingo card as well. I've not talked about absolutely everything on this card. I have done an hour-long behind-the-scenes travelogue on my Patreon, which you can go and check out. Supporters can watch that. I don't think I talk about literally everything on that either, even though it's an hour long. And again, that's just because how much stuff there was. But there were a couple of points on here that I just didn't get time to complete, even though I wanted to. Despite there being so many amazing role-playing game companies like Cubicle 7 and Free League and Chaosium and plenty of others, I just never got round to playing a role-playing game. I also didn't really play a board game, not a proper one at least. And partly that's just because there's so much going on. There are so many people to meet and talk to on the concourse and as you're walking around. There's so many cool things to see at the different stalls. It was a fantastic experience that just kept me busy the entire time. So there you go. That was my UK Games Expo 2026 experience. I had a fantastic time. And I do think that the bingo card is something I will look at doing again next year. Not only do I have to get redemption by completing it, there's also a lot of things that I was inspired to do that I just didn't think I would, or I hadn't expected that I would. And things that happened as a result of this that were just sort of spontaneous and a bit of fun. In fact, when I went to consume something blue, I thought I was going to do that through game mechanics at some point. Consume a blue token to have this game effect. That did not happen. I didn't get around to that. So on the final day, the final Sunday, there are few precious moments left in the actual convention. And it occurred to me that there was actually a slushy machine in one corner of the event. And I could go over and I could make sure that I had a blue slushy. So I raced over there. My feet were aching. I was absolutely exhausted, but I had that blue slushy. And whilst I was there, I bumped into a load of awesome people. People who I had wanted to talk to throughout the course of the convention, but I just hadn't seen. And they happened to be in that corner of the event. I was able to get a new demo. I was able to get new stuff and talk to new folks. And it was all because I had gone there for that blue slushy, which I wouldn't have gone for otherwise. So I think the bingo card has proved itself to be very worthwhile. Okay, I know that the objective that most people are probably most interested in is actually whether or not I was able to win the most rock, paper, scissors. At the preview show, I challenged Hector to a game, and despite knowing that he could only make a rock, he schooled me with the rock, and I lost. So I decided to learn from the best, and I used rock for pretty much all of my subsequent games. And though I lost a handful, I also seemed to win a fair few. Against 16 separate opponents over the course of the weekend, I drew 3 games, lost 5, and won 8. Not a terrible tally in the end, and which, by my count, puts me ahead in terms of winning the most games of rock, paper, scissors, at least as far as my own games are concerned. I don't know if there were people out there playing thousands of games of rock, paper, scissors during the UK Games Expo, but for my games, I came out just ahead and I'm ticking that box. But either way, I've got to be honest, this was one of the most fun aspects of the event for me. These encounters were just so much fun. This was the sort of purest version of playing games. We were all there to just play games against each other, to be good opponents, and to have a laugh and a joke. It was really wonderful. And of course, I got to play rock, paper, scissors with Sir Ian Livingstone, which means I've played a game with Sir Ian Livingstone, which feels like ticking off a bucket list item as well as a bingo card one. I think that this or something like this would definitely be on a bingo card for the future. It was just magic. There is so much stuff that right now I've probably forgotten, or at least I've run out of time to talk about. But know that if we had a conversation, if we played a game, if you came over and said hello, then it was absolutely awesome. There is no bad memory for me from this entire event. Everyone was awesome. Everything I did was fantastic. I cannot wait until UK Games Expo next year because it was just that much fun. I'm counting down the days right now, and I'm thinking about my bingo card for next year because I am just that eager to go again. I can't believe that the days went so quickly. And I hope that the time between now and then goes quickly because it is a highlight for me of the year. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Jordan, and this is Jordan Sorcery.